Joining us now is free speech campaigner Baroness Claire Fox. Good afternoon, Claire. Now, I'll tell you what I think about this march. I don't approve of it. I agree with Rishi Sunak. I think it's disrespectful. I'm pleased they're not going past the cenotaph, but I'm not sure the cenotaph will remain unscathed come this Saturday because of Tommy Robinson and his gang who say they're going to protect it. However, given all of that, I believe the march should go ahead. On the basis that you can't have a bit of a right to protest. You either have a right to protest or you don't. So no matter how unpleasant a lot of people think this march is, I believe in free Britain it should happen. What are your thoughts?
Well, I've just listened to your really interesting interview with Trevor Kavanagh, and you haven't left me a lot to say. But I do think that we have to absolutely, unapologetically, defend the right to protest and the right to free assembly. We shouldn't compromise on that. I'm particularly incensed about the fact that one of the reasons why there's calls to ban the march is because the marches up until this time have been badly policed. And you've raised all of those issues. You know, it's been galling, completely terrifying, in fact, to see a collapse of authority. I don't necessarily think it's the police acting in a left-right way. I think Trevor made a very good point, which is almost like they go for easy pickings. You know, far easier to turn up at the door of somebody who's misgendered someone on social media and threaten them than it is to actually do some real police work. And they themselves, as we know, as a police force overall, have spent a huge amount of time on equality, diversity, inclusion courses. We know that they've been talking to lots of community advisors because they were able to tell us in great detail the significance of particular flags, the various linguistic understanding of the word jihad. And they spent so much time doing that, they forgot that what their role is to arrest or, you know, police those elements that present a threat. And hate crimes, my God, they never have any difficulty in defining them most of the time. They drive us mad calling things hate.
Yeah.
And then you've got anti-Semitism openly on the streets, and they go, we're not sure. We've had to consult a community advisor.
Yeah.
I mean, the irony hasn't been lost on me, Claire, that those who would die on a hill to defend the free speech of the pro-Palestinian marchers all of a sudden don't think Suella Braverman has the right to her own free speech. But do you think, as Home Secretary, her use of that comparison with sectarian marches in Northern Ireland was the right way to go about things?
I thought it was a bit like Trevor suggested. I don't think it rings true in quite the same way. For me, it is much more, as he suggested, like the Nazis marching. I think we've got to think of Hamas as being like ISIS. I think that the problem with the demonstrations is that, like everyone has said, I would urge no one to go on these demonstrations, because if you actually want peace in Gaza, and many tens of thousands who will go will want that and be naive about the organisers or Hamas and all the rest of it. But you have to say, if you want peace in Gaza, you have to call for the release of the hostages. You have to condemn Hamas for being one of the reasons why there is such a violent, brutal regime in Gaza. And that's not happening. You know, we've seen this completely horrible situation. Lots of films from America, but just to use one, they were showing in the Museum of Tolerance in Los Angeles today the footage of what happened on October the 7th. And that film showing was attacked. Can you believe? They didn't want it to go ahead. We've seen Jewish societies and universities setting up stalls, putting up posters of the children being attacked by people who are saying you've got no right to be here. What we should be worried about is the fact that anti-Semitism has been allowed to fester and thrive for two reasons in this country. One, Islamism, which people have been frightened to challenge on the basis that they might be called Islamophobic. And secondly, identity politics, which has made such a fuss about white privilege that it's put Jews at the top of the white privilege hill, as it were, and also a sort of form of identity politics that says the victim is always right and you have to support the victim. And in this case, the Palestinians have been dubbed as the kind of go-to victim and no questions asked. So the Jews are the enemy, the Palestinians are all the victims. We're not allowed to have an intelligent conversation or any kind of nuance at all. And it's led to this frightening upsurge in intolerance and a toxic mess. And the police standing by and not policing when people are obviously breaking the law is adding to that. So Suella Braverman, you know, I read her article. I agree with a lot of it. Indeed, you know, in many ways, most of it, apart from the inference that the march should be banned. But I think now, if I listen to lots of programmes, they're having a conversation about whether Rishi should have approved it or not.
Right, yeah.
But who cares about that?
Yeah,
That's
a really good point.
No, exactly.
Yeah, who cares whether or not she got the go-ahead?
Exactly.
By the way, you know, great government, isn't it? You know, if any cabinet secretary wants to make a statement, write an article, you've got to get permission from the boss.
I know.
It's pathetic.
And yet there's no leadership from the top. Since when has he been addressing the nation on this?
Yeah.
I haven't seen him for a while. Don't know about you. He's doing AI conferences.
Claire, great to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time.